NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Bedstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back to Match the Gas podcast. I'm NASCAR Sky. Joining me shortly, Kevin and Jeff. And we're here to talk about the Chicago street race and all the chaos that went with that. And then we're going to jump over to California for Sonoma. But before we get into all that, I got to ask Kevin, who mashed the gas stuff?
Well, Sky, we got to give it up to old Gizzy. SVG goes out there. Only the second time in NASCAR history that a driver starts from the pole in Xfinity, wins the race, starts in the pole in Cup, wins the race. Kyle Busch did it in 2016 at Indy. SVG goes out there, leads 26 laps, survives the chaos, survives the late rain that was coming, gets it done, Jeff. 2 wins this year on the season, getting ready to rip into Sonoma, possibly making it 3.
Well, we definitely know he's good at the road courses. So, Sonoma, I think would be a good pick to look at for him. But, right now, as far as winning drivers, he's one of 4 teams now, or one of 4 drivers that have actually won multiple races. So, man, he went kind of, from low in points. Now he's at the very, very top in 4th place as far as the playoffs go. So, yeah, congratulations to SVG and, like you said, accomplishing those goals, from qualifying and getting the pole to the win. Man, what an incredible weekend for racing.
Definitely, for sure. It was a little interesting there. I mean, the opening lap, we had William Byron. He had some issue there, and then 4 laps in, Carson Hocevar, missed the apex, slam the wall there, caused the big old pile up. I mean, Carson seems to be on the end of a lot of drama these days. I don't know how he's got even more drivers mad at him, I feel like, every single week. So I don't know what you guys thought about all that, but I always hate when races start like that because it's so slow. But it was interesting to see Chicago because it was dry this year. The last 2 years it's been wet. And that's one thing that SVG is really good at is, doing these road courses, especially for the first time. And I know Chicago technically isn't the first time, but it's the first time that was dry. So I was a little surprised to see the 71 jump out. But, Michael McDowell, we don't talk about him much, but he's a really good road course racer.
Felt bad for those guys. I mean, had a really fast race car, actually led more laps than SVG, led 31 laps, won the first stage, and then that throttle linkage just failed. I know Steve Letarte was kind of breaking it down. He goes, man, that's a cheap part compared to what we usually see blow up. So unfortunate. I was kind of hoping that 71 and 88 battle would have played out because I think McDowell might have had something for him at the end. So tough to say the way these races go, but a lot of chaos. You mentioned Carson Hocevar wiping everyone out. Boy, that took forever to clean up. So, if it wasn't one, it was the other. Guys bashing into each other. We had Ross Chastain pretty much rage wrecking half the field. Joey Logano was pissed. He thinks Ross Chastain should be fined because he basically openly admitted that he intentionally wrecked guys out of rebuttal, out of rage. And so curious to see what NASCAR is going to do with that. Denny Hamlin thinks nothing comes of it, but I mean, flag to flag, we finally had a dry race in the city of Chicago. All in all, I think it was a success. I don't think we're going to come back here in the future. Jeff, you and I were talking about that last week, but curious to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's a very interesting track. I mean, to me, it almost looks like a figure 8 with a bunch of 90-degree turns for the most part. And, after you get out of any of those turns, it's very, very narrow. So, Hocevar, unfortunately, didn't have that room, that they do on normal road courses to kind of drift out a little bit on coming out of a turn. And just, he slammed the wall. It was a rookie mistake, unfortunately. And, it cost a lot of money. A lot of those cars damaged up. But like you were mentioning earlier, though, Kevin, Michael McDowell, I was kind of pulling for him a lot during the race. Like I said, led 31 laps. There were only 5 lead changes during the whole race, and there were only 5 different leaders. So, it was kind of like not a whole lot of passing for the most part. I think AJ Allmendinger kind of surprised me the most, from where he started to where he finished. Really, really impressed me. And I was going to put him in my lineup. I didn't. I should have left him in. But getting a P6, he can't complain.
No, Dinger's he always seems to be around there at the end for sure. And I agree. I don't think that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't think that we're probably going to be back at Chicago next year, but I really hope that NASCAR doesn't give up the street race. I mean, I really like it. I heard, some rumors, obviously nothing, we don't know anything, but they were mentioning San Diego, and San Diego might be better for a few different reasons. I mean, opening up that market down there, but also the weather might be a little better than it is up in Chicago. so we could see some different racing. But I don't know, I really like it. I think that the younger generation likes it too. It's something different, especially if you bring it to that market. A lot of people might just walk up and start watching it. So I would hate for them to just abandon the entire street race altogether. I hope that they maybe consider a different city, maybe move it around a little bit because, it can be flexible. I don't know, but I did see that a few Chicago-based articles. I mean, a lot of the businesses are starting to really like it and know how to bring that money in. So I don't know. Hopefully they can figure something out with it.
The Chicago market is crucial for NASCAR, and we were kind of kicking the can around what they're going to do with this. And in that market sits in Joliet, Illinois, 35 miles from the city of Chicago is Chicagoland Speedway, kind of the sister track to Kansas. I mean, if we think back to one of the greatest races there, that's when Kyle Busch was given the cry signal to the camera and said, if you don't like that kind of racing, don't even watch. That was when Dale Jr. made that famous slide job call up in the booth. I mean, Chicagoland is a great racetrack, so we're sitting on something there. San Diego, I think we're going there. I mean, NASCAR has already been, as far as I understand, they've been in meetings, the Chamber of Commerce, the city of San Diego. There's a lot of planning that goes into this. And I think that's the thing with Chicago is by year 3, they hit their stride. They figured out how to close these streets down. The logistics of it's got dialed in. And then, fan attendance, it's hard to say. I mean, the first year there was so much build up to it. It rained the whole weekend. We finally had some decent weather there, some decent on track activity. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do going into next year because this is falling on the 4th of July weekend, and I would love to see Daytona get this race back again. I mean, the Coke Zero 400, Pepsi 400, whatever it was for all those years was always a 4th of July staple. Move it back there. That's my opinion, and let's work in a San Diego street course.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about San Diego as well. I do think that that's probably where we'll go. I think they'll probably be able to put together a better track, a better course. I think the market would be a little bit better than Chicago's itself. But Sky's right. Even last year, I was reading a couple articles about Chicago as far as the businesses and the revenue that it brought in and the tourism dollar. There was a lot of money there to be made. It was just a lot of the residents that were kind of pissy about it because it was loud. It's right there downtown. Off of Lake Michigan there, and some people liked it, some people didn't. It's kind of too bad that now they kind of like I said got their stride down a little bit. That will probably be moving it, but I don't think they're going to take the road course away. I do think they'll probably move it somewhere like San Diego. Now it might take another year in the planning before they actually do it, so it might not be on the circuit for next year. I'm not sure. But overall, yeah, it was a very interesting race, and I want to see what y'all's thoughts are again, like Kevin kind of brought up that old Ross Chastain literally admitting wrecking Logano. And, Logano's sitting there going, what the hell? I mean, he said a lot of worse words than that if you're listening to his in-car. But, he's like, I got 4 guys behind me shoving into me. And, Chastain just didn't feel it that way and decided to take him out. Will there be repercussions? I think there should be, but you never know with NASCAR. It's like there's so much gray area. NASCAR keeps saying they want to be a little bit more black and white, but they're not doing it. They're just not holding up to that black and white standard that they wanted to do.
Well, I'll quote Denny Hamlin here. NASCAR is consistently inconsistent with these calls. We talked about it after Coda,
Exactly.
where we saw a turn on the front straightaway. We were talking about it then. It was a right rear hook, but it was under a certain amount of speed. Jamie McMurray said it's right around that 45 to 55 mile an hour zone that they don't see right rear hooks as a problem. The officiating in this race, it was terrible. I think we can all agree. We'll get into some of these cautions that weren't thrown in time. Josh Berry sitting there for a lap and a half. Cody Ware just plows into turn 6 over 125 miles an hour. Sky, I don't know if you saw that fan video submission. That was one of the hardest hits I've ever seen. Should have been an immediate caution, no question about it. But these guys were fighting the rain. They didn't want a green, white checkered. So there was a lot that went into that. But I thought the officiating was probably the worst we've seen all year.
The officiating, yeah, I agree. Though, I'm a little bit more lenient on the Cody Ware one. I feel like NASCAR's under a lot of pressure, especially with fans of not throwing, just a caution at the end to kind of spice things up and have an overtime finish. I did see how hard it was and definitely was a really hard hit. And he probably, I mean, I know they were trying to give time. I don't know. There's no excuse for the Josh Berry one. I mean, he was there, like you said, a lap and a half. They're going past him at full speed. I mean, that's just dangerous. NASCAR fumbled the bag so much, and TNT, they did not. I'm not. They're not doing well either. I mean, I don't know if it's just that Prime was that much better, but I feel like they. I know this is kind of off topic, but I know at the end they did a commercial right in the middle of him doing his burnout. It's just like stuff like that. I don't know. NASCAR needs to get it together. they're never consistent. Like Jeff said, it's hard to tell. It's just hard to tell what the role is, when it's going to be. I think that they need to just let go of everything else, let go of all the other noise, the social media, not worrying about making everybody happy and just looking at what you have on track, what the facts are, and going from there, not worrying about whether or not it's going to make someone mad.
Yeah, and because of course people are going to get mad either way. It's always someone else's fault in the driver's mind, and a lot of times that happens. And I kind of think that's what we were seeing a little bit there between Bowman and Bubba Wallace. They towards the end of the race, both of them kind of I know in car they were heated up a little bit, but after the race, I saw Bubba Wallace pretty much just walk off, but not much to mention other than they kind of just said it was racing. I thought there was going to be fisticuffs after that. I thought we were going to see a little bit of brawling going on here, especially with the way they were going back and forth on track, but it just didn't happen. So that's going to be an interesting one to see, if there's going to be any retaliation on that, because I don't think either one of them really feel about it. But as far as Ross Chastain, he's starting to look like he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, not making friends out there for sure. And yeah, I mean, to echo off Sky's point here, even with the Bowman and Bubba situation, we couldn't get a camera on it. All of a sudden, the 23 is turned around. We don't know how he ended up turned around. I had to go back and view footage of the in-car on both of them to see what happened there. Because at first, it looks like, oh, the 48 just finally had enough and he dumped him. 48 was on better tires, and Bubba was racing him hard. I mean, he pinched him coming in through 12, pinched him into one, into two, and then finally they just ping-ponged off each other. And I think it was just kind of a racing incident. I didn't see, Bowman got out of the throttle a little bit. There was nothing intentional there that I could see. It was just a racing incident. But, and those guys were in the bracket challenge, so there was a little bit of skin in the game there. But, Bubba ended up with a poor day, to cough up 20 spots, on a hiccup like that. Sure, he might have gotten passed for, 12th, 13th, maybe finished 14th, but it just wasn't a good move.
Yeah, the 23 team, they got to get it together. There's a few teams that just haven't been able to put up in. I think we make a lot of excuses for Bubba just as a fan base, but I mean, I just feel like you have all the tools you need. You can have these better finishes. You can't blame a lot of the fans like to blame, oh, he has bad luck, he has bad luck, but like that's not a racing incident. He was racing aggressively against the 48, and I mean, when you do it so much, eventually, something's going to happen, whether it's your turn around, the 48's turned around, whatever. Someone else who had a really bad day, I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, William Byron, he's just had such a downtime. He only won, what, the Daytona 500, the big first race of the year. But I feel like the 24 went through this same thing last year, this kind of slump. But out of the last 5 weeks, he's finished four times outside of 27th, and that's just a few weeks ago, his lead in the playoffs was like 80 points or whatever. Now it's down to 13, and he has, I think Elliott's right behind him, and then Kyle Larson. So he's got some company. He's gotta get it together. You gotta get those better finishes. You don't quite expect that. I feel like we're always talking about the 48, but the 24. I mean, that's been a rough few weeks for them.
Yeah, Hendrick Motorsports had a really rough weekend. I thought they were going to do a lot better, and then winded up with all four of their cars starting, pretty much at the tail end of the line there. And then, like you mentioned, old poor William Byron finishing dead last. Yeah, really bad luck for Hendrick Motorsports overall, especially with qualifying and everything in the starting order. So, but you're right. It's weird to see William Byron. You mentioned 27th or less in finishing for the last, what'd you say, 5, 6 races. It's crazy. I've never seen William Byron had a crappy run like this. Everyone has a bad day here and there, but he's got to get the monkey off of his back if he wants to move forward and continue in the playoffs, and not get knocked out in the first round. So yeah, very unfortunate day for him. I think the best that we had for Hendrick was P13, Kyle Larson. So, he made his way up through the field as he normally does. I think that's going to be an interesting driver to watch for next week. I'm also, again, I'm really looking at Michael McDowell for next week. I think Sonoma is going to be a really fun course. I think it's going to be more fun to watch than Chicago, just because, again, in my mind, seeing all the 90-degree turns and how narrow the straightaways were, I'm really looking forward to seeing some elevation change. We got 12 different turns out there in Sonoma. Eventually, if we bring a street course down to San Diego, that way we can have Northern California and Southern California back. Because from what I've been seeing, Fontana is definitely not going to come back as a short track or anything else.
No, Fontana's done, so that Southern California market will depend on a San Diego street course. And yeah, I think it's important. I mean, there's a big fan base on the West Coast, and there always has been. Sonoma is one area of it, get the road course and street course down in California. I guess we turn both right and left in that state. But, you mentioned Hendrick Motorsports. Overall, I mean, these guys, outside of Chase Elliott winning at Atlanta last week, they've kind of been on a downturn. If you look at this thing, I mean, Kyle Larson really hasn't been in the conversation these past few weeks. Kyle Larson, in my opinion, hasn't really been the same since he ran the Indianapolis 500. We just haven't seen the finishes and the laps led and the consistency. He can turn it up at any moment. I mean, I think when we get to Dover or Indy, he'll probably be a little bit more in this conversation. But let's not forget, he did win this race a year ago in Sonoma. So, and just bad luck for the 24. Blows a clutch, similar to what happened to Denny Hamlin in Kansas earlier this year. And, granted, they don't really use the clutch to upshift and downshift. It was inevitable that he would have snapped the transaxle just like Denny did. So Rudy Fugle just decided we're going to bring this thing in, and just lick our wounds and move on, because you got to have your equipment dialed in to finish these races. I mean, it's tough on equipment. Look how many guys were banging into these concrete walls, hard hits, tearing up their equipment. I mean, Ty Dillon said he had to limp that thing home, barely could drive it. So that's the other thing. We really don't see any safer barrier other than those tires that they had in the entrance of turn 1 and 6. The rest is just hard concrete there in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago's just a tough track, and like I did forget, Bowman did finish P8, so he was able to get his way back up there as well. And as we know, hey, he won Chicago last year, so he can do it out there on these road courses and street courses. We'll have to see what he does in Sonoma. I don't think he did too well last year. I think he did somewhere around a P15. Yeah, P15 is what he had last year in Sonoma. But he's someone I want to look at. Maybe he's a dark horse. Put him in the garage. See what we think about that. But I want to talk about something else with you guys. It was announced this week that the number 99 and Daniel Suarez will not be coming back to Trackhouse. It was a mutual thing. He's been there for 5 years. I thought it was kind of unfortunate, right after he got his Xfinity win in Mexico City, that kind of would give him a little bit of a boost. But he's after 5 years, they're just going to part ways, and there's not too many seats open. And I'm wondering what are you guys thinking? Where do you think he's going to go?
I think worst case, he'll probably just end up in Xfinity for maybe just a little while. Maybe he'll swap. I think that they're probably going to end up bringing Connor Zillage up to fill his ride. So I mean, they could flip flop there, and it's not probably the best thing in the world. But Cole Custer did the same thing, and he eventually got back up to Cup. So maybe it's unfortunate. I think that it sucks because Suarez kind of helped build Trackhouse, but the speed, the consistency is just not there. I can see both sides, and we'll just have to see where it goes. I wish him best of luck because I do really like Suarez.
Yeah, you beat me to it there, Sky. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think you see a good partnership there with Junior Motorsports and Xfinity, and I think Junior puts him down there if he doesn't get some sort of cup ride. I mean, it's tough to go from a race winning team to, I hate to throw Ty Dillon under the bus, but go into a colleague racing or some of these underfunded teams. You don't want to just ride around and finish 6 laps down. You want to be competitive. So I think for Suarez, if he gets an opportunity to run for Junior and Xfinity full time, you take it. And I think Trackhouse making the move to bring Connor Zilic up is brilliant. He's been in their developmental program. We saw him win at Pocono. We know he can win on road courses. Now Trackhouse has 2 road course ringers in their stable. I think that's the move.
Yeah, that probably is the move. I think we saw AJ Allmendinger do it too. He was in the Cup Series for quite a while, dropped down to Xfinity Series, back into the Nationwide, whatever. Then he rode his way through there, and now he's running full time back in the Cup Series. So we're not saying it's fully on out for him, but I could, if he does get dropped down, I would see him probably going to Junior Motorsports for sure. But as far as getting a good cup ride, it is tough because Ty Dillon, his future is definitely shaky over there at Colleague. The only other team I was kind of thinking was, I know that, Legacy Motor Club's been kind of thinking about expanding their team into a third car. So there's another possibility that he could do there. And then if he can't find a ride somewhere along the NASCAR circuit, whether it's Xfinity or the Cup race, what do you guys think? Think he has a shot going over to IndyCar?
Can't say I see him doing that, but it's so hard to tell. I mean, I didn't think if you would ask me a few years ago if I would have thought Jimmy Johnson did that, I probably would have said no. So it's definitely a possibility. I think most likely he'll probably just end up back in Xfinity, which I like to see it for him. I like him to get maybe some more experience or whatever he needs, just more seat time or whatever, so that if he comes back to Cup, he can still race pretty well.
Yeah, I don't see him going open wheel. I mean, I know crazier things have happened. Obviously worst case scenario is you go all the way down to the truck level, which is a huge pay decrease. We saw what happened with Matt DiBenedetto a couple years ago when he was running for the Wood Brothers, finished P2 at Bristol and found out at the end of the year he was done. Anything can happen, but I think Suarez has enough talent and enough things on his resume, including a win in Mexico City. Earlier this year in that 88, and he did win in the 99 at Sonoma. He's got to win in the Cup Series and Xfinity Series. So he has a portfolio to bring to, owners and possible seat time. So I think we're going to see him stay at Xfinity or higher.
Not to switch gears too much, but I wanted to bring up Denny Hamlin because he finished P4, which actually surprised me because not only did he have like the motor issue or whatever in practice, but that is the second time that he's finished in the top 10 at a road course in the next gen era. He hasn't been too good at road courses, during this next gen era. So I was really shocked to see that, honestly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, Denny Hamlin, he has not done very well at road courses. So, I didn't really think about that until you brought it up. But yeah, he did finish P4. He's doing well, and maybe he'll do good in Sonoma. I mean, Gibbs, I think, is going to do really, really well. I don't know if Logano and Austin Cindric and then their Penske team. I don't know if they're going to see what they have. I don't know if they can do it or not. It's tough. I think Penske always struggles just a little bit at Sonoma. I don't know if it's that 160-foot elevation change they've got on the track or not, or whatever. But there's someone that I'm probably going to hold off on looking at for Sonoma. But Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, that might be a good one to go.
Well, he's definitely improved his road course program, no doubt about it. I mean, Denny was never a big road course guy. Those are his words, not his favorite. He would really like to see it go back to just Sonoma and Watkins Glen. And I'm okay with taking a couple road courses out. I do like the addition of Coda. I think the street course is a good thing. I think we get rid of the Roval, keep Sonoma, Watkins Glen, and let's get this down to 4 road courses. But battle through like that. I mean, Denny went out there almost lap 2 in practice. The motor just completely expired. He spins it around, done. No practice, no qualifying, goes out there and drives it through the field, survives all the chaos. And of course, he owns 2311, and those guys are struggling. But Tyler Reddick bringing home P3, had the fast lap of the race. When does 2311 get it together? Because I mean, as we get tighter and tighter, this thing's going to come down to the wire, and I think points are going to matter much more. Bubba might look back at this race in Chicago and go, "Man, if I didn't wreck there, those 20 points would have got me in. I would have pointed my way in." I think we're headed for a scenario like that.
I agree. He's definitely probably going to regret. I mean, there's been so many instances, both him and Reddick. I don't know if it's just maybe the lawsuit's taken a bigger toll than, we realize. I just think that, I mean, the 45 to me is just uncharacteristically not, I don't know, he's just not like himself this year. I feel like last year it was like every week, Tyler Reddick, Tyler Reddick, Tyler Reddick. And now it's just like, I mean, he had a good finish, maybe a couple times this year? Maybe he's just quiet and I don't notice him too much, but I don't know. It seems like they got some trouble going on over there. But then, Denny Hamlin, I think he's doing pretty well. He's pretty consistent. He's been finishing, I don't know, like in the top 5, like every single week. So he needs to start rubbing off on them, get his team together. I did want to ask a question. I've seen this floated around a little bit, not to switch gears too quickly, but I want to talk about Kyle Busch. Have we seen Kyle Busch win his last win? Do you think that he's still got something in him? I don't know. I feel like I don't want to give up hope yet. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I definitely think it's an RCR equipment problem. I mean, that's something I've talked about for the last year and a half. I mean, he was eager to win when he got there last year, had some good finishes. I think those guys are snake bit. I always look at his teammate, Austin Dillon. How often do we talk about the 3 other than when he wrecked Logano at Richmond last year for a fake win? Those guys are they just don't have. They just don't have, what Penske and what Hendrick and what Gibbs have. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's talent, if it's engineers, if it's equipment. But to answer your question, Sky, no, I think we will see Kyle Busch win again. It's just so tough to say where. He was my pick last week on Match the Gas to win Chicago, and he had a pretty damn good run considering everything that happened.
Yeah, he did get a P5 out of this last weekend, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I mean, as long as Richard Childress equipment is not running well, how long is Kyle Busch going to stay in the series? I think that's what it comes down to. With the way he's running right now, I think Sky's kind of right. It's like, I don't know. We're not hearing a hell of a lot about him. He's had a couple good finishes, but will he win another race? That's a very good question. If he retires, I think in the next year, if it's next year, if he hasn't won by next year, I think he's going to hang it up and we will not see him win. But who's to say he's going to run another year after that? I mean, I kind of think that next year will probably be Kyle Busch's last year.
I don't know. I think he hangs around for a little longer. I don't think he's ready to give up quite
He's
yet.
a lingerer, isn't he?
Something like that. But how many times can we just continue to blame the equipment? Because I feel like there's other things going wrong. They cannot, that eight team, and granted, I don't focus too much on the three teams, so I can't say, but I know the eight team, they struggle with so many things. It's not even just equipment. It's okay, you're not putting the lug nuts on right, tires are popping off all the time. Then you have your driver who's speeding on pit road, who's spinning himself out. I mean, how much can we continue to blame the equipment? I feel like there's other things going on there. I don't know if maybe Kyle isn't meshing with the team or maybe the team needs some work, but I mean, I feel like they shoot themselves in the foot almost every single race to the point where they have to recover. I'm surprised he finished P5 this week.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. I mean, they are one of the most penalized teams in 2025, and it's speeding, too fast entering, too fast exiting. What did he get yesterday? Driving through too many pit stalls. That is a driver error for sure. Those are things that you get worked out in practice. You're in communication. Obviously, the spotter situation of Chicago is not easy. It's not going to be easy in Sonoma either, but just too many mistakes all year long. And it's so tough to overcome those penalties that, the fact that Kyle Busch was able to get a top five finish, I'm sure you guys saw his post race interview. He acted like he won the race because they finally had something positive go their way, get a positive finish out of it. But just collectively, they're just not with it, and I think you could say the same about the three team, but I don't know what needs to change. Is it a crew chief? Is it an engineer? Is it a director's position? Something needs to change though, or RCR is just going to continue to rack up poor finishes, get more penalties, and, we'll just be beating a dead horse every week.
Yeah, it is pretty tough, and like you said, Kyle Busch, he actually did have an ear to ear grin on when they did that interview with him. It did look like he's like, man, I actually almost won that race. I don't know what to tell you on that. I just, him and Denny Hamlin both right around the same age, both have maybe a year or two left in them, and then they're gonna be like, I'm gonna be with my family, and we're gonna, let the kids race, stuff like that. I don't know if his head's just not in the game anymore or not, because obviously he's a veteran of the sport. He's been here forever. But to see as many mistakes as he's been making and the equipment failure, something does have to give.
I know we're getting towards the end here. We're about to turn the page to next weekend, but I wanted to give a shout out to the 54 because we've given them so much crap this year, and I feel like they're finally starting to, get some pieces together. They got some momentum. It doesn't surprise me that he finished, P2 because back in Xfinity, I mean, his first race was the Daytona Road Course, and he won his first ever Xfinity start. So, I mean, he's someone that, Ty Gibbs is someone in the next few years, I feel like is going to be one of those people that we talk about week in, week out, going, or at least for road courses for sure. But I want to give him a little shout out. I mean, I'm proud of that team. They're getting it together. I mean, the rest of their teammates seem to have it pretty together, maybe besides the 19, but at least they have a win. So, I don't know. I just had to give him a little shout out there before we turn over to some Sonoma.
Yeah, I think Ty Gibbs is heading in the right direction for sure. I mean, the Joe Gibbs team, they're showing up with fast race cars, and Ty is finally putting the races together. Great road racer for sure. I mean, we talked about him in Mexico City, was running pretty decently there, putting up good lap times, ended up getting on that off pit sequence there. And, that's the other thing that Denny mentioned. This is the first time they didn't try to flip the stage as they've done in years past. Because he said every time they've done that, they get mired back in traffic. The strategy in these road courses is so different than the ovals. You got to either flip the stage, pit twice, pit three times. You got all these different strategies going on. Caution comes out, it wrecks it. But yeah, it's good for Ty Gibbs. I think he's going to be a threat this weekend in Sonoma for sure. We got to remember, obviously SVG is going to be the favorite. He's never run a Cup car here, but he did win the Xfinity race here last year. So SVG's had sighting laps. He's got experience. Give him some track time. SVG is going to be in this conversation, but I don't know. I think that the advantage closes in a bit. I don't think he has as big of an advantage as he did in Chicago. And I think that there's an opportunity here for Tyler Reddick or Ty Gibbs or some of these other guys to go up there and get a win.
I agree. I feel like he has his advantage definitely is slimmer because, a lot of these drivers have been racing Sonoma for a very long time. So granted, maybe it's not always like in the Cup car, but I feel like he has a lot more of an advantage when we go somewhere that's new to everybody because he adapts quicker. I don't know. He's not someone that I think is going to win this weekend. I know that might surprise someone, but I don't know. Jeff might have my pick. I heard who he was like gassing up a little bit, so we'll have to see.
Well, I'll tell you what, with SVG, you made a good point there as far as going to Chicago. Kevin and I even talked about this before the race. It's like no one has a lot of notes on Chicago. This is only the third time we've ever ran it. Whereas you go to somewhere like, Sonoma or, well, some of these other road courses up Watkins Glen, and there's years and years of notes that these crew chiefs have and things like that. So the 45, I think that'd probably be a good pick to look at. But as far as SVG, I think he could do it. I mean, we know he's darn good on these road courses. It'd be interesting to see him win again. His cool suit broke down. And I know he was wondering if they could turn it back on and whatnot. And I guess once that thing's broke and the hose is gone, it's gone. So to see him be able to win that race still without his cool suit working, because it was damn hot in Chicago this weekend. But Ricky Stenhouse commented on that and said, that's why he doesn't even wear one, because if it breaks, it's just hot as hell. It's not worth it to him. So he doesn't wear the cool suits. So, but as far as going to Sonoma, yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to go to Sonoma and get out there to wine country.
Same with Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin does not do cool suits for that exact reason. He said when Gabe Hart was calling the race, he would almost kind of require Denny to wear it in these high humidity, high heat races. And Denny just said, I'm not doing it. And so, Denny had mentioned on Detrimental that was the most he had sweat in a long time. And I think a lot of people forget when it comes to the athletic piece to driving, these guys are losing about 6 to 8, 9 pounds a race of just pure water weight. And it's hard on a driver. SVG was feeling it after the Xfinity race, had to get rehydrated. And so that hot humidity, really not going to be as much of a factor out in Sonoma. Obviously Northern California has pretty steady weather, looking about low 80s, so hopefully we don't have any cool suit failures. But that's been a topic that's really been coming up a lot. I know it's, it's summertime, but why are these cool suits failing? I mean, I don't really understand the inner workings of it. I know Daniel Trotta was kind of giving a rundown of it. They keep failing, and so if I was one of these guys, there's no way I'd be putting one on, because now you're just swimming around in hot water. So adds a whole different element to the race. You get completely distracted. Your core body temperature is up, and you're more apt to make a mistake. So be curious to see who wears them in Sonoma and who doesn't. But I do think Denny Hamlin's going in my lineup. Definitely Tyler Reddick. I'm 50-50 on Bubba. I just don't know which way to go on him. AJ Allmendinger, I think, proved he needs a spot in there. And shout out Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece has been running top 10 in the conversation. I think I'm going to roll the dice on Preece as well this weekend.
Yeah, those are really good picks. I look back at the last 2 years that we raced there. And there's, like you said, Dinger, he's somebody that comes up. Actually, Chase Elliott, he comes up twice. He finished P4 last year, and then in 2023 finished in P5. So that'd be someone. Christopher Bell finished 9th both times. Chastain, he's in the top 10 both times. So there's a lot of drivers you can definitely pick for this weekend. But I don't know. Are we making our picks now? If I pick first, I might take Jeff's, and I don't feel like I want to do that to him.
Take it. Tell us who you're going to take.
All right. I'm going first time win or at least for this season with Michael McDowell. He's gonna get it done. He was good yesterday. I feel like they're gonna get it together, and he's gonna win.
You took my pick. You took my pick for sure. I really, really would like to see Daniel Suarez get it. I don't think that he will, but he did get Trackhouse their very first win in 2022 there in Sonoma. So since I can't go with Michael McDowell, I'm gonna go with Chris Buescher.
Sky stole mine as well. I guess we were going to go unanimous on Michael McDowell. I really do think he's going to win this thing, but I guess I'll take the obvious favorite. I'll lay the favorite here in gambling terms, and I'll go with SVG. I think he can do it. I mean, he won here in Xfinity last year. We know he's a beast on road courses, barring anything happening, no wrecks, no tire failures, anything on pit road. I'm going SVG again.
I'm rooting against that pick just because I don't want to see him keep winning.
I'd be fine with McDowell winning.
It's funny that I circled Chris Buescher was going to be my other pick if you chose Michael McDowell before me. So we were thinking, I guess we were all thinking the same there.
I think I'm going to stay away from Penske this weekend on fantasy, just because I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen the once we get to Dover and we start talking Dover here next week, I think those guys will be back in the mix. But should be good. Wine country, fantastic. Sonoma road course, and we've been going here a long time. When I first started watching it, it was Sears Point. So looking forward to it. Hopefully TNT can get it together. I think with Junior and those guys up there, they're kind of steering the ship as far as what I'm hearing. It's a new director. Prime set the bar really, really high. Now TNT is struggling a little bit. So hopefully they have a chance to redeem themselves. But looking forward to it. Should be a great weekend out there in wine country. We will be back next Monday to break down all of the action. We'll see whose picks were right, whose brackets are busted. Can Ty Dillon go the distance? That's the real gamble of this in-season bracket challenge. So thanks for supporting us over here. Be sure to mash that subscribe button on any platform you're listening to us on. Follow us at Mash the Gas across the board. Be sure to follow Sky at NASCAR Sky. Let's go wine country racing. And until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.